in the legacy days, there's a bunch of ways to skin a SIP endpoint, right? You could do a lot of things to it, a lot of different controls, a lot of different API you could apply to what you're doing in the space. In the MTR world, you have to play it's highly recommended to play in the Microsoft sandbox and use the Microsoft guidelines.
Hi, and welcome back to the Teams Insider podcast. This week, we've got a great customer case study. Andre from IQVIA gets into the kit he's chosen, over 700 Teams rooms, the deployment journey, really interesting conversation. And also, I'm joined by Alison at AVI-SPL, who talks about the partnership and what AVI-SPL have done in the project. Thanks to Andre and Alison for joining the podcast. Many thanks to AVI-SPL for being such a big supporter of empowering cloud. On with the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Teams Insider podcast. You know we like to hear the real customer stories on the podcast. It's a great way to understand what real rollouts feel like and look like and how to manage them. And we've got a great Microsoft Teams room story to get into. Two guests this week. Maybe, Andre, I could start with you to kind of give us a bit of an intro and set the scene about yourself and your organization.
Sure. I work for a company called IQVIA. My name is Andre. I've been working here for about almost 6 years now, a little over 6 years. We're a global company, have hundreds of offices globally, every country, every region. And so we're working in different cultures, different time zones, different everything. And Teams has been a great tool for us to have for our conference rooms.
Awesome. And Alison, maybe you could intro and talk about the AVI-SPL relationship with IQVIA.
Yes, absolutely. So I am the sales rep with AVI-SPL that helps manage IQVIA. Andre and his team have been great to work with. They do some of their own deployments, and then we typically run with their high-end spaces where they need a different level of expertise. We also work very hard and we're very focused on making sure that Andre and his team look good for choosing us as a vendor. And so that's something that we pride ourselves in. We have several examples of high-end spaces that we've done for him successfully. And we want to continue to do that work and support you.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into some of those high-end rooms and what they look like and that project. But first, Andre, maybe you can take us through, as you said, you've got hundreds of rooms, global, big deployment. You had some kind of strategic changes in terms of kit choice and what you're doing kind of post-COVID. So if I can take you back to there, nobody wants to go back to COVID particularly, but back to that time frame. Talk us through where you were with, I think you had Crestron and some standard-based SIP to where you are today. Absolutely.
I feel like I should be talking with a mask and pull it off in the conversation. No. So, I came into IQVIA around 2019. Honestly, I found the job because it was closest to where I lived in Jersey City. It was like a 10-minute commute. COVID hit and my boss left and they kind of gave me the role. And so at the time we were working in a SIP environment. We were deploying Cisco, Poly. There might have even been some life-size SIP endpoints out there. I mean, take you back into those days, right? Everything was in-house. Our bridges were in-house. Managed everything. This is back when something went wrong with video conferencing. There was one team to blame. Now that is all right. It's changed. So what we did was we evaluated a bunch of different tools, different kits, Logi, Build Your Own, HP, and we fell in love with the Lenovo tools. We found that they were very easy to deploy, easy to support, and the touch panel from Teams being uniform everywhere was a big deal. So we decided to go into small and medium rooms. I felt like at the time a lot of companies were making small room kits, medium room kits, large room kits, and kind of making their own, denominations of what that actually meant. We just said 12 people and under. Here's your hub on the table. Here's your camera at the front of the house. You can have dual or single screen. We rolled out with about 15 of those systems in our London office back in 2021. Very successful, a lot of usage. We were able to pull great data from that. And then we started to roll that out globally. From 2021, we've been building about 200 rooms a year. that fit that mold and others. And AVI helps us out with a lot of these spaces as well, particularly the more complex spaces that aren't just the hub systems now. But back then, we incrementally went up from small and medium room to our large archetype, which was just a YVC Yamaha speakerphone with 5 daisy chainable mics, and then kind of similar camera and displays at the front of the house. And then we moved into our boardroom style spaces, like one that I'm in right now. We got monitors that duplicate the right display from the front of house to the table. I've got a projector screen behind me that goes up and down. And then now we can do training rooms. We got ceiling grid microphones. We have wireless microphones, handheld integration for analog experience. You name it. I think we've built every single archetype that we deploy here at IQVIA, and it took us a couple years, but the incremental process to get to those more complex spaces was certainly the right approach, and definitely what I would recommend for anyone starting out.
Yeah, that's good to think about. And did you particularly choose Windows MTR, or was it more the manageability you mentioned there, kind of in terms of the Lenovo tooling, and was that what drove you to the standardized on the Lenovo MTRs?
That's a good question. When COVID hit and we had to come back into the office, people weren't wanting to spend a lot of money. So our previous room types were probably in the $75,000 to $100,000 range for like a 12-person room. And
oh wow! So you were delivering a significant saving going with the new world technology versus the kind of classic.
And the important part about that is, back pre-COVID, we were building 15 rooms a year. Budgetarily, we were only deploying these places, in like VIP locations only. No one really thought, in our company at least, video conferencing was for everyone. It was like, hop on your laptop, Skype for business, dial in, deal with your audio settings. But on the return to work, we had to come up with something, re-engineer what we had, and make it accessible. And that includes cost. And so for sure, you can imagine the price points of a Lenovo Windows 11 IoT now versus codecs, Crestron, et cetera, is a dramatic difference.
Awesome. How many Windows MTRs or Lenovo MTRs are you up to now, roughly?
We have 650 Windows MTRs. They're all Windows 11, MTRs.
Awesome. And we talked on the prep call. You've been particularly good at holding standards. Usually, when I talk to organisations of your size, there's an aspiration to hold standards, but inevitably, there's something different in this region, or there's something different in that region. It feels like you've done a pretty good job of picking standards and pushing them globally.
Yeah, that is one thing, for anyone starting out, I would recommend is getting buy-in from the business, earning trust, and, making sure you own your deployments. I feel like a lot of people maybe go to a consultant company perhaps, and they'll give you a great set of standards, but if it's not maintained and enforced, there's no point in doing that. So we kind of do that all in-house, actually. And so we sign off on every single deployment that gets purchased, every building that gets refit. Oftentimes we're redoing the conference rooms as well. And we sign off on all of those. So we get sign-off privileges, and we also actually build the material list to give to local teams to reach out to their vendors to work on. And so more times than not, especially in countries where some hardware is harder to get, in some of the APAC regions, we may have to deviate a little bit from some of our components, like switches in particular, PoE switches. But for the most part, we're like at 99.8, 99.9% parity across the board of all those systems.
That's awesome. Microsoft are talking a lot at the moment about, customers scaling up in MTRs and improving ease of deployment and speed of deployment. I mean, 200 rooms a year is an impressive number. Can you talk us through how that works practically? Because you don't have hundreds of people on your team,
no.
the core team, do you?
No, my core team consists of, I'm actually here visiting North Carolina now. I've got like a senior engineer who's out of this office, like a hardware engineer who's good at like break fix stuff. In Kansas City, I have like a project manager style person. And then I have like just a well-rounded couple people in the APAC region, in Singapore and in Shanghai. So between us, 5, we are, enforcing these standards. It's the supportability of these tools. That was the first thing we looked at, honestly. For us, make it easy for us to support, and then find what's easy to deploy, what's easy to use, and we think we have that. But the remote tools that we have are amazing. We can remote into any touch panel via 2 different methods. So if one goes down, we could fail over to the other one. Switch back over to the Pro Portal remote tools. We can remotely enable, disable RDP, and if we need to go in via RDP, that's another way we can support these tools. And then a big change we did from our legacy systems was, we only deployed, BIAMP tools, QSC, DSPs, and now exclude those. Like, we only do DSPs that we actually remotely control. So of the 600, of the 700-ish MTRs we have by the end of this year, I want to say 20% of them will have a DSP that we've remotely administered. So I feel like that's definitely new to the video conferencing deployment world, whereas in years past is very contingent on needing a vendor to come in who's a certified programmer. And anyone who's built a conference room in the last 10 years knows that tune-in microphones in a new space can take a long time.
Yeah, there's some special sauce to that, definitely.
And something that we really loved when we partnered with AVI with some of our more complex spaces is our boardrooms. Like, we can't lift and shift that by ourselves internally. Even with savvy local IT, we need people that know how to run cables, fit cables, terminate cables, present it in a perfect, beautiful way for our leadership. And we finished the install for the boardroom that I'm thinking of right now that AVI helped us out with on a Friday. And that Monday, we programmed the DSP and turned it over to the business. So, but like over the weekend, and honestly, it was just a Friday that we worked on it, we were able to get it up and running. And they were happy. They loved it.
That's awesome. I was going to ask kind of where the bar is there, where it's either big enough or complex enough or important enough. And it sounds like all of those things are true. Alison, it'd be great to hear from your point of view in terms of the partnership, because that feels like when I talk to other people at AVI-SPL, it's common now to have some in-house skill and some partnership skill and have those two things working together.
Yeah, it's actually a huge team effort. It's Andre's team, it's our team, it's our project managers, it's our commissioners. And everybody has to be in line with the standards and what the deadlines are to make things happen, for sure. I think it's been a great experience working with IQVIA. They treat us like we're an arm of them and vice versa. And that's really how it should be to deliver a successful project, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting because some partners certainly want to be a bit all or nothing, whereas I think in the new world, particularly in the MTR world, as Andre said, a lot of this stuff, particularly if you choose the right platforms and products, there are opportunities to do basic rooms in-house, do some ops. So it's nice to hear where these partnerships can fit to add value to the customer and not be like, well, we do all the rooms or we do none of the rooms or we do all of the specking or none of the specking.
Agreed. We're also embarking on some potential global deployments to start working with Andre and his team outside the US. So that's an exciting add as well. It's just another place that you might have a hole in your team that you need support from us outside of just complex spaces.
Yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? Where you've got a smaller team is the kind of we've got the skill, but we haven't got either the literal hands or the knowledge in that region, in that time zone.
Right, exactly.
And comfort too, because we may be putting a structured cabling vendor in another country in a weird position where they've never used these tools, deployed these tools. So we're really bringing them up from the ground zero, almost giving them a crash course of what they're doing. So in a region where it's important to deliver a high quality product, we don't have time to train a structured cabling vendor up on what to do. What Alison was talking about is exactly what is very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Andre, you're kind of 6 years into this MTR journey now, unbelievably. We talked on the prep call about kind of how you got the leadership buy-in and built up the muscles in in-house team. Can you kind of give us some thoughts about that for customers who aren't as far on their MTR journey, maybe some tips about what to think about?
Absolutely. So leadership in our company, I think we're a little bit of an older school style of headquarters and hierarchy. And so change is often challenging to enforce and to implement around them. So what my strategy here was leverage my network, build that network up, and then start sprinkling proper systems around people that care about this stuff so they can be voices within the company. And the chatter, definitely spreads. Word of mouth is still very important with that. So I actually came into this company as an executive support / AV engineer. And I probably did a pretty good job as the executive support person. So I gained the trust of these leaders. So anytime I was presented with any pushback of what to deploy, why are we deploying, I basically showed usage numbers of what we're doing, adoption rate compared to legacy systems. And then if there was even more pushback, the trust that I got from the leadership and my bosses and their peers really was important there as well.
Do you think you were like hypersensitive to tooling and management and operations because of that journey you went on? Like is that in terms of your kit selection and
kind of? Back in the legacy days, there's a bunch of ways to skin a SIP endpoint, right? You could do a lot of things to it, a lot of different controls, a lot of different API you could apply to what you're doing in the space. In the MTR world, you have to play it's highly recommended to play in the Microsoft sandbox and use the Microsoft guidelines. So that was another failback I had if there was any pushback, was to say, if you want to use that tool, show it to me where it is on the certified list of peripherals. And if it's not there, there's a reason why it's not there. And that was honestly a tool that we used to get some work done as well.
Awesome. And did you have any kind of coming from a big rooms, Cisco codec, like classic codec kind of world? Did you see any pushback around? There's only a certain type of room that's suitable for an MTR, and these other rooms need to be standards-based traditional.
Yep. So earlier, like I'd say year 2 or 3, as we were developing our training spaces, our cafes, our boardrooms, which we have now, the requests were there. But we just pushed back with, hardware that wasn't ready yet. We didn't have, when we were deploying Lenovo hub systems, which were the small and medium spaces, we didn't have the modular systems yet. So we would literally say to customer, people within the company that were asking for different size conference rooms, it's not ready yet. And we'll have to make do with what we have. And oftentimes it was a legacy system with some, third-party control. What we did to bridge the gap, because it was definitely an ask that was happening before we were ready to deploy it, was we would roll out mobile carts. We would arm a mobile cart system that was capable of like a little bit larger of a space, and then the flexibility of moving that around bought us some time, essentially. So I would say that would be a nice stepping stone if you're not ready to deploy into much larger spaces. Start playing with the mobile carts and arming different tools into the mobile cart that will enable what you're looking for. But there's so many peripherals that are certified now. I don't think that's a problem anymore, honestly.
Yeah, we've come a long way in terms of the various additional extensible audio systems and modular systems and the level of things that are certified now as well, where I would challenge there's not any spaces now that you can't do. We can do divisible, we can do multi-camera, we can do structured audio. And when you came to the Yamaha and the audio extensibility, did you I'm always interested in how you came to that kit selection, because again, you mentioned various other audio vendors you've got in kind of historically.
We were partnering, apologies, AVI-SPL, with a team in India as we were deploying, because India is a region where we have some of our largest spaces. We have a cafe that seats 500, a cafe that seats 300, and they were asking for teams enabling those spaces. And at the time, we're not sure what we can do in those spaces. I want to say that was 2.5 years ago now. And they presented us with an option for Yamaha's Odysseus series. And so we said, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. We're going to get our own version of this and start demoing it. And gosh, I mean, the ease of use, it's a 16 by 16 DSP. So you can have up to 16 wired microphones into there. It's got the family series includes ceiling grid microphones, wireless microphones, wired microphones. And the audio out of the box is phenomenal. It used to take several, days, weeks to program. Now out of the box works well. And you can even, customize that remotely. We leverage back to supportability. This DSP has a front panel USB connection that is direct feed into the box. So if you can remote into the MTR, you can go directly into the DSP via a web browser on the MTR, and then you can program everything from there. So that was a big deal.
That's handy. So you don't need to separate out a band management system for that. You can just hop off the MTR onto the
exactly. So that's how we do that around the world. Is about 20% of our systems now, and this is maybe more challenging for some, but I think if you do it a few times on this as a non-DSP programmer, I think you kind of get the hang of it. But I did come from that world. When I first started in the AV world, I was programming on London Architect, Harman Kardon DSPs. I think it was the Blue 100, 102 line. Super legacy stuff now compared to what we're doing today. But yeah, we don't even use VoIP anymore. We just use the soft phone built into Teams. It's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Andre, thanks so much for taking us in such depth on the journey and the rollout and the kit choices. It's so useful for people to hear like how you came to that. And Alison, thanks for kind of giving us some insight into the AVI-SPL partnership as well. Any closing thoughts? Alison, I'll go to you first in terms of the journey and the story.
Just thank you so much for working with us and choosing us as a vendor and partner. We've really enjoyed our working relationship so far.
Awesome. And Andre?
And likewise, I think we go through a few iterations of design occasionally. It's been a journey. I'm not a CAD drawer. I did some DSP work back in the day, so I can understand like pretty complex signal flows, but I'm, translating our designs into, less than CAD, I'll call it. And the AVI does a great job of interpreting that for us and partnering with us to deliver what we want in our vision.
Some of the best ideas can start on a napkin, Andre. So
that's right.
we're happy
as
to
long
work
as there's somebody there to
those.
take it off the napkin and make it real. That's the important.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks both so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Alison.
Take care.